Clay McKinney, Developer OnRamp. This is the wrap-up video for the Introduction to HTML course. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the little website that we've made throughout the course, we're going to put it online so that it'll be an actual website on the actual web. It's going to be a sub-site on developeronramp.com. So what we need, well, we need to do some stuff first, right? I made a list of things I wanted to talk about. First of all, I want you guys to go out and create a website right now. I know we haven't talked about CSS yet. We've only talked about HTML tags, which are structural, and they're not designed to create a great graphic design look and feel. They're designed to make the page layout right. We're going to cover CSS in a CSS course. We're going to cover JavaScript in a JavaScript course, but it's not too early to go ahead and make a website. I made a website when I was first learning HTML, and a lot of people found it very helpful. I was taking a history class, and I made a timeline, right? So it was super simple, but you need to start doing that. You need to start working on some projects. Before I got my first job as a developer, actually as a web designer 20 years ago. Before I got my first job doing that, I did the timeline website that I mentioned. I did a website for a friend of mine who was a musician. At that point, I already knew some CSS and a lot of Photoshop tricks, and I had our album art to work with, which was beautiful. And I made a lot of little just playground sites. I made a site and just stuck a lot of examples on there as a portfolio, and that's what I did before I got my first paid gig. There's all sorts of charities that you can do HTML work for. It's not too early for you to start working on your own projects or for your friends' projects, or to start working for free. Okay, so create a website. All right, the first thing you have to do is go buy a domain name. I use GoDaddy. There's other places. Domain names range in price from, $10 a year to $20 a year, and I guess upwards from that, depending on where you buy them from and how many years you buy them for. A lot of times they'll give you a discount if you buy the domain name for 2 or 3 years up front. But anyway, it's just like buying anything else online. It's not hard to do. So I went and bought developeronramp.com. The next thing you have to do is find a web host. A web host is a company that they have a data center. They have a bunch of servers on racks in a big warehouse. They may not own the warehouse. There may be a lot of people there. But they have a bunch of servers on racks in a warehouse that's has backup power and a huge fat connection to the internet, and it's always on. And basically you give them money, like, I don't know, $5 a month or something like that, and they let you put your websites on their servers. And then what you do is after you find your web host, I don't really like my web host, so I'm not going to recommend them. I've heard good things about DreamHost. I've heard good things about Bluehost. But anyway, after you find a good web host to work with, you set up your site on their side. You say, hey, I bought, in my case, I added the website, I added the domain name developeronramp.com, and then I clicked a button and it created a folder for me to put my site in. And then I had to connect these two: the domain name I bought from GoDaddy and the hosting space I rented. So what I did was on the web host side, I found out the name server address, and I just copied it. It looks a little bit like a web address, but it was like ns1 for name server 1 dot, and then some, some specific things for my web host. And I just copied that line, and I went back to GoDaddy, and I looked for DNS, and I found the domain, developeronramp.com, and I changed the name servers, just pasted it right in there. One of them was NS1, the other one was NS2, but they were otherwise the same, so I just copied and pasted it twice and then changed the 1 to a 2. The next thing you do is you need an FTP client. The FTP client, that's a file transfer protocol, and I'm going to show you this part. The file transfer protocol client, FileZilla, is the one I use. It's a lot of people use it. It's free and open source, and you can just go get it. It lets you drag the files from your computer to the web host computer. So very easy concept. And once the files are over there on the web host and your domain name that you bought resolves to your account on your web host, then whoever goes to the web address will see your website, and we're going to do that. Okay, so that was a lot to explain, but it's not hard to do, and we're going to do it. It's going to take just a few more minutes. We need to add an index page. An index page is if someone doesn't specify on your website which page they want to look at, then the index page is the one that they're going to see. The traditional name of the file is index.html. On Microsoft servers, it could also be default, like default.html, or if you're doing some other sort of page like a ASP.NET page, it might be default.aspx, whatever you're doing. Anyway, that's sort of the old-fashioned way of doing it. So we're going to make a file called index.html, and that way when someone browses to the folder, it'll automatically open the index.html file first. So we've got to make a new index.html file. We've got to put a little bit of content in it, and we've got to change our navigation to include the new little home page we're making. Okay, so let's get to it. We need to open our template back up. Okay, so we have this template in here. Okay, we're going to rename it. Oops. File, save as, index.html. Okay, we need to add a little bit of content. The index page, it's going to be like a table of contents, so it's going to have our links to our pages up here, but it's also going to have our links to our videos. I have a HTML video course log. Okay, and we can make this a ordered list. Need to tab all these guys in, and let's see, I need to add I'm going to hold down my Alt key and drag down and add a li to all of those, and then at the end I'll close OL. And let's see, we need to close each of these LIs. Okay, now, later, of course, I'll go back and I'll add links to all the YouTube videos that I'm going to upload. Okay, so this is named index.html. It's got a little bit of content. Introduction to HTML course. So all we have to do now is make it real. Let's see. We need to change our navigation a little bit. So let's see. href equals index.html. And we'll call this HTML course home. Close A. Put one of those little pipe characters back in. Okay, that should do it. Let's save that. I'm going to copy this nav to the other pages. Okay, I'm going to save all. Except for that one. Okay, now in our FTP program, FileZilla, I have already put in the username and password to connect to the hosting space, and I've got my folder open for all of our files that we've made. Let's see, it says the connection is closed, so I'm going to refresh it. And I want this to be a sub-site of developeronramp.com, so I want to make a new folder over here. Create directory, HTML course. Okay. And in the HTML course folder, which is in the www root folder, by the way, that's pretty common. I'm going to move all these files over, including my images folder. I think most of these files are part of it, so we'll just drag them all. Okay, now let's see if it worked. We need to go to developeronramp.com/HTML course. developeronramp.com/HTML course. Look at that. We've got a website. Okay, so what is HTML? HTML tags, web graphics, tables, forms, and this is all live on the real internet. And going back to the home page. Isn't that great? I love this. I love it. I love web design. I love just publishing stuff. Okay, so developeronramp.com. Now the site isn't really up yet. You can see I've got almost nothing there. But what I want to do here, I've got a HTML course now, which I still need to upload because I'm still making the videos, right? This is the last video. I'll upload the videos on YouTube. I'll put a link to the Introduction to HTML course here on the Developer on Ramp homepage, and then in the future I'll be adding courses for a developer's introduction to CSS, a brief introduction to JavaScript, and then a back-end language like how to work on the back end of your website with C# and SQL Server. So I'm going to be adding these courses for a while, and Developer on Ramp is where you can come to see them. You can also, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you're probably watching this on YouTube now, so subscribe to the channel, and then it'll alert you when there's a new video. And you can follow me on Twitter. I set up a Twitter account this morning, Developer on Ramp. Let's see, twitter.com/developeronramp. There I am. Hello world. Nothing there yet, really, but there will be. So follow me on Twitter. Check my website, developeronramp.com, and subscribe on YouTube, and there will be more to come. I hope that you enjoyed the Introduction to HTML course. Please recommend it to your friends. Anybody that wants to learn HTML, they can watch this HTML course, but especially anybody that wants to become a programmer. Learning HTML is a great place to start, because if you should have a foundation in HTML before you try to learn CSS or JavaScript, and you should have a little bit of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript before you try to learn a back-end web programming language, any of them, like PHP or Java Spring, or in my case it would be a C#, ASP.NET, MVC, Web API kind of thing, with SQL Server. So that's what we're going to focus on in my Developer On-Ramp courses, is sort of the Windows, Microsoft, Windows Server backend stuff. Guys, I've had a great time. I hope you have too. And I'm signing off. That's the end of the Introduction to HTML course.